Hi, this is Erica. I'm doing a blog for school for my English class. I have to state that because I don't know if I will be taking a video down after the semester is over with. So I did have to state that my blog is going to be on the issue of gun violence and the need for change. So if I sound a little mellow tone, it's because I'm reading because I didn't memorize it, but it's a blog, so you don't need to memorize things, but I like to, but okay, now I'm just babbling. So I'm going to start my blog. As I stated, it's on the issue of gun violence and the need for change. Gun violence is something that is dear to me. In my 32 years of living, I have dealt with gun violence more times than I would like to remember. Like most people, my encounters have been just as a bystander or in the wrong place at the wrong time. I have done research on gun violence and everything adds up. Everything ends up being the same. Lawmakers and public officials know the cause of gun violence and why it's happening. And being on the outside looking in, it seems that there is little change being made to combat the issue of gun violence. However, in my opinion, the approach is wrong. Instead of just targeting just gun laws and the process of buying a gun, target the issues that is making people go out and buy a gun and commit crimes. Most people that own a gun do so for protection. It is the sad truth that nowadays there are more guns than people living. I, I interviewed two people on the issue of gun violence. One being a mere co-worker of mine. I asked him for his input on gun violence, and his response was that gun violence has become the first line of defense in this day and age, and there's no fear of the consequences from gun violence anymore. It's out of hand, and he feels like it's pushed on people through social media and music. TV has a lot of young and easily influenced people that think gun violence is the way of life and that they need to solve every petty situation with unnecessarily force by toting a gun. And on that part, I really do agree with him because you have these music videos with these rappers and everything is about gun, money, and women, and I'm gonna shoot this person or I did that. My voice is a little raspy because I'm sick too. And it gives this image that you have to have a gun to be cool or to fit in. And so the younger generation feels like, well, this is what I have to do to fit in, or this is what I have to do to be cool. And that's just not the case. Okay. The second person I interviewed was the father of my child. And the first thing he stated was that it was his right to own a gun, according to the Second Amendment. And a lot of people that like guns actually cite the Second Amendment when discussing gun rights or gun laws. He also stated that owning a gun is a way of life, and he likes the smell of a fresh shot bullet. And to a lot of people, I'm going in and out of his quote. To a lot of people, owning a gun is a way of life. Like, you have gun collectors, you have people that love to hunt. I think there's like a shooting sport. I should have looked that up. They're like they shoot as a sport, and you have people that to them owning a gun is a way of life. And my child father and his family is some of those people. Like, they love guns, not in a careless way or in a careless manner, where they're just toting it and showing it off. But they do enjoy going to shoot and legally owning a gun. He also added that shooting a gun is a good way to release stress when done in a safe environment. There are many reasons for gun violence, including but not limited to lack of opportunity, a sense of hopelessness, plaguing Milwaukee's poorest residents, which would be the 53206 area code. Most of them are people of color. Although 53206 is has the highest poverty rate of any zip code in the city and very high incarceration rate. Homicide numbers show how social and economic factors collide across a much broader area of Milwaukee, which has attracted increasingly notoriety for being among the nation's most racially segregated cities. according to WisconsinContacts.com. If we as a society can help each other and lift each other up and stop looking at each other as competition, that would just help a little more. If public officials were to work on segregation, which is big for Milwaukee, a lot of people know that. Some are in denial. If they was to work on better educational programs, better after school programs, employment, and when I say employment, I mean employment without the bias of employers looking at a resume and I'm not going to hire this person because their name is too urban, or I'm not going to hire this person because their zip code is in an inner city or a urban neighborhood. And so, yeah, you have affirmative action and all of that. But when you have that bias, when a candidate is trying to go find a job, that goes right out the window. And all of these things, segregation, unemployment, lack of education, that all ties into gun violence and just crime in general. Good paying jobs. It's not enough to have a job, but if you have a job making little to nothing that you can't provide for your family, that's the big issue. In my opinion, what lawmakers and public officials need to understand is that with poverty comes crime. Let me repeat that. With poverty comes crime. When people can't take care of themselves or their families, they're gonna find a way to go out and take care of them or to provide for themselves, whether they're doing it the legal way or the illegal way. They have a mentality that survive by any means necessary. Is me and mine over you and yours. So it's a sad truth again, but that's how a lot of people, especially in the urban, in the inner city, think. According to an article titled "Gun Violence is a Problem We Don't Need to Have," the public health approach, written by Caroline Newberg, posted on www.phi.org. Just as smoking, vehicle accidents, and drunk driving are public health issues, so is gun violence. We have a problem in the United States we don't have to have. The article goes on to state that American firearm homicide rate is 3 to 4 times that of any other English-speaking developed countries. American children are 5 to 14 American children 5 to 14 years of age are 13 times more likely to be murdered with a gun, and 8 more times likely to commit suicide with a firearm than children in any other developed country. But when a gun isn't present, American children murder and suicide rates are in par with those developed nations. 85% of all children murdered in the 14 nations are American children. So not only is it a crisis, but it's a crisis with kids ages 5 to 14, 5 years old, being killed or committing suicide by use of a firearm. And they give out free gun locks now. So gun education is also very important. Gun locks, especially in a home where there are kids, are very important. That's very important. And they give them out free, like I said. Continuing to push for a better background check system and other public policy change will be important prevention effort, but the most fruitful area to pursue could be designing guns so that they can only be operated by an authorized person. These smart guns or personalized guns will reduce gun accidents by children and teenage suicides. The technology to pursue and get started on these guns already exists. Another advantage of smart guns: if more than 500,000 guns stolen in home burglaries annually were smart guns, it wouldn't be worth a person's while to obtain these guns to use in crime because the guns wouldn't be usable. It wouldn't be usable because only an authorized person could use the guns. I don't know how they would do that. I'm thinking like with a fingerprint or something. While doing even more research, I came across a page titled AmericanProgress.com, where article titled 6 Ways to Reduce Gun Violence in America caught my eye. The article states that in this country, an average of 35,000 people were killed by guns every year. That's 96 people a day. There is no single simple solution to reducing gun violence in this country. However, there are a number of common sense steps that will be a great place to start. Steps that could be taken right now is to ban assault weapons and high capacity ammunition magazines. Enable the centers I'm sorry, my voice is just hurting talking. Enable the Centers for Disease Control Prevention to research gun violence as a public health issue. Require background checks for all gun sales. Support local violence prevention and intervention programs. And disarm all domestic abusers. Again, as I stated before, these are good measures, but they're only targeting gun laws. The buying of a gun, declaring gun violence as a public health issue. Again, those are good steps to take, but when you still have poverty and you still have people with low self-esteem and no education and unemployment, and they feel like all hope is lost and no one cares about them, you're going to have crime. And when you have crime and people out here committing crime, you're going to have people who's going to arm themselves with weapons and preferably a gun for when people like that come their way. And it's just the cycle of violence that keeps going and going. So I feel like these background checks, you have straw buyers. Different people buy guns for them all the time. There is more ways than, like I said, to say, hey, let's jump on, you need this to pass a background check to get a gun, or we're going to make this law. Work with the inner city people and the public officials. Trying to think of the word I'm looking for. At the base of the problems, and maybe you can start to work your way up and see a change. But until then, just doing what they have been doing for years clearly is not working, and they need to try something else. Thank you for watching through my raspy voice and everything else.